So at 18:04, we will call the meeting to order. This is a meeting is being recorded by Area 58. It is a virtual meeting and all votes will be done via roll call. So I hope everyone had a good September and everybody's who has children in school or grandchildren in school are all settled in for the school year. Ready to get going with stuff. I think that's fantastic. It's a good time of year. So without further ado, the first thing we will move into is the approval of the the committee minutes that were sent out last, I think, Friday? Thursday. Has everybody had a chance to read through them?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions, adds, changes, or deletions?
No.
Okay, so do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Cheryl. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so roll call vote. Cheryl?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes, on the minutes for May 12, 2024.
EJ?
Yes.
And Mr. Rignetta?
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes also. So those are approved, all in favor, with one exception. Mike's not here. Okay, so the next item we have on our agenda is the budget review. So I sent out an updated budget after some monies, after the carry forward items were moved into the new budget. And just for the record, I had a question on the Halifax Elementary School sprinkler line item, which still had $4,140 in it and it was passed on an article from 2017. So that was, and Cody, I don't know if you want to just reiterate your explanation, but we did have a chat about that.
So that project is one that we bonded for. So I'll have to confirm with our accountant tomorrow, but I believe that is just the excess funds that weren't utilized. If that's the case, when we make our next payment on the bond, we'll just utilize that remaining portion.
Okay. Very good. So just a dovetail question on that. On future articles where the town is voting for specific dollars, is there a way that if it's not spent in that fiscal year, that it comes back to the town as free cash or however?
Not within the fiscal year, but one of the things that I asked our former accountant to start doing at the end of the fiscal year, and as we close the books and work on free cash, Eric and Bill will be doing is looking at these ones that have been there for a while and closing them out. So I have a list of a few of them that we're going to close out this year.
Right.
So it's not something that we can do automatically, but with our internal accountant, they'll look to do it. And once we have someone in permanently, that's part of the end of the year process is they're supposed to be looking at every article and closing them out when necessary. Okay. It's a past practice thing here in particular. They keep articles open for a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because the operating budget has historically been budgeted so tightly that they would leave things open as a way to, if an expense ever came up related to that, they could dip into that.
Understand.
I get it.
Get out of work. We used to call it sandbagging.
Yeah.
So, but it's, we want to keep things clean.
Yeah, right. Year end to clean up everything possible so you don't get to carry over.
The project's done,
Right, exactly. Right. Clean the books up, start out clean in the new fiscal year.
Yeah, so there's quite a few. And Sandy actually did a lot. There was a lot more than there are now. She did a lot last year. And like I said, as we work towards closing out free cash for this year, Eric and Bill will do the same thing.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, those were my questions. So I would open it up to the floor. Anybody have any questions for Cody on the budget that was sent out?
No, I'm good.
Not here.
Not right now.
No. Okay.
You know me.
Yep. Okay. So, all right. So thanks everybody for for that. So moving on to our next agenda item. So it's the CPA discussion. So for the Community Preservation Act. Now, we had a presentation the last time of having from Jonathan and the team on what the CPA does, the purpose of it. And I think we just took some time for everybody to kind of mull over it and think about it. So I'm going to open it up for our discussion, and if we want to vote to support it. Obviously, we don't have any, purview or sway over whether it gets, adopted, passed, or whatever. But do we want to support it as a finance committee? So I'd like to open it up to the floor for a discussion. I'll start with a couple of comments of mine. So in my opinion, the items that we're listing to be used for the CPA should be coming into as part of capital planning. I recognize that there's certain pieces of the program that have to be put into certain buckets. So 10% for community housing, 10% for open spaces, 10% for historic reserve, and then program admin is a max of 5%, and then the rest, 65 to 70%, goes into general fund. So just from a town perspective, I don't think Halifax is really ready for that right now. Perhaps if we had done this in 2008 when it first came through, then that would probably be a non-answer. I would just say my aspect is I would vote to not support this from a finance committee perspective. That's my input.
So,
It's mine.
so to add to that, to pigtail off of that, I should say, in my opinion, this is such a hard topic right now. I mean, we hear and see a lot of conversation about it. People in favor of it, people not in favor of it. I think in the foreground, it's a no-brainer. It's a process that makes sense with a lot of benefits for the community long term. I think it's really hard to stand up and argue that. What makes it hard for me is the current fiscal condition of the town overall and all of the uncertainties that are ahead of us over the next couple of years, particularly FY26. It's a scary reality that we're facing. And I think when you look outside of the walls of this committee and you start to factor in what's best for the community overall and the taxpayers, it's hard to sit here and say, yes, we want to ask for a surcharge for CPA, knowing that there is a possibility of an additional ask coming later this year, in the spring or in the fall, whenever it is. There's just so much uncertainty right now that's out there around the financial condition of the community overall that while I love the concept of it, it's just really hard for me to sit here and say without knowing what the next ask is going to be. And I know you have to separate the two. I know they're two very different topics. But at the end of the day, the money's coming from the same pocketbooks in the same wallets. And that's what makes this such a hard decision for me. And I'm telling you guys, and you ladies, I have spent a lot of time talking to people and thinking about this on my own, because it does make that much sense to have a program like this. It's just a matter of, is it the right time? And I know we said this probably 20 years ago when it first became a thing, right? Is it the right time? And you can't always let time dictate the decisions that you're making. But when there's things that are pretty much a guarantee ahead of us, it's hard to not let that factor in on your decision. That's my feelings towards the whole topic.
Cheryl?
I agree. I understand that, yes, it would be nice to do things for the community. But I mean, I'm speaking as a senior citizen whose tax bill gets higher and higher. In any way you put this, it's still a tax. And we don't, and like AJ said, we don't know what we're going to need down the road or how much or how we're going to get it. So it sounds like a good idea in concept, but my vote would be no as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. Bill, comments?
I kind of agree with what they said because what's going to happen if we have to raise taxes in the future to supplement the budget and you already have this on top of that, that's going to hurt. I don't think it's the right time either. If we were fiscally sound, I'd say yes, but I don't think we are. So,
Okay. Mike?
I've been torn, and like all of you, I've done a lot of talking, right, to residents and neighbors and friends, and I agree with all the comments. I do think it is a fantastic program. I think the town, short and long term, would benefit greatly, and there's funds there that we might not ever be able to raise internally without a program like this, and whether it's now or later, when there are programs that we can benefit by that aren't overly burdening to people. And believe me, I get the tax burden as well. My tax bill is ginormous, and nobody wants that. I guess my only question would be, so personally, I would say I would be in favor of it. I understand the reasons for not being it 100% and can agree with those as well. I guess my question to us is, and it's my first time being involved in a vote with you folks, so bear with me for a second, is that are we voting based on to approve this? So at the meetings that we go to, right, and we say, does the finance committee approve or not approve this? If we think it's a good idea, even though it may cost more for people,
No, my hands. No.
aren't we supposed to say, do we think it's a good idea, and then the town votes on whether they can afford it? Or are we voting based on what we think the town can't afford? And this is my thought. And again, trying to figure out.
Sure. No, that's a fair question. And Cody, keep me straight here. I think it's, what the conversation is around, do we as a committee want to put our support behind, the program itself,
That's what
right?
it comes down
I mean, the town does vote for it, absolutely. But do we want to support the CPA, the initiative for the CPA?
So I think what you described, Mike, is accurate where if you were bringing something to town meeting, for instance. So when this was on the warrant in the spring, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what the finance committee is tasked to do, on behalf of the town. Really, the eyes and ears for the town, not on a personal level, right? But is this a good decision for the town? And then let the town decide, okay, is this something that, as a town meeting, right, we have the appetite to move forward with, or the ballot. This is, it's really just you don't have to do anything. You guys don't have to vote to support it. You don't have to do anything on this. This is just I think Hope, right? Halifax, Hope reached out to the finance committee and said, hey, this is what we're doing. If you would be so inclined to provide support, just so, I think it's more for so they can say, we have the support of the Halifax Finance Committee, we have the support of the Conservation Commission. It's really an optics, and Jonathan's on, but it's more of an optics than like an official in your capacity at town meeting, where you're actually making a recommendation saying, we as a finance committee think this is good for the town, and then you guys decide.
So do we have three options on this? Do we have a recommend, don't recommend, or no recommendation? Either way, I mean, like a yes or no, or a abstaining, basically. Do we have that option from our?
Definitely. I mean, I'd recommend either you can vote to recommend it, or just don't take a vote at all. I don't know if you need to, if you're all in agreement that it's not something that you want to recommend, I don't think you need to take a vote at all, because it's just a show of support that the group asked for if you were inclined to do it. I don't think you need to go, again, it's not like a town meeting article where you need to vote, you're for it or against it, and then you provide your recommendation. It's really just something the group asked for.
Yeah,
but
it's a personal decision. because it's on the ballot, whether you want to support it or not as a taxpayer.
Right. Yep.
And that's at town meeting, we all said, or most people said, put it on a ballot and allow
Right.
all to
decide.
vote for
To vote
it,
for it.
yes or no, versus 100 people, 150 people making the decision.
Right.
And I understand where Hope is coming from. They're just wanting to get some support for their program, which I fully understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure as being the financial committee that we should vote to yes or no it.
I agree.
We've already done that
Right.
at the town meeting in the spring. We already voiced our opinions at
Yes,
that
yes,
point.
we did.
So as back to what Michael said, there's really three options there that we should look at and vote on one of the three, and not vote at all. So
Okay.
either to abstain,
Sure.
to no, or to yes.
Okay. So just probably a couple data points that I want to make sure we get out there, just from and just to dovetail into what Cheryl was saying. So if you go from 2010 to 2025, housing, the average single home value in the state of Massachusetts has increased 34.3%. But in Halifax, it's increased 59.06.
Yeah.
So, that seems a bit lopsided to me as to why it's going up so much here as compared to the state in general.
I can
Now,
give you that
there's,
information if you'd like.
okay,
We were undervalued. So what happened is we use a consultant to help with the overall
With the
evaluation.
assessors,
Yeah, through the assessors. And basically what happened is we were slowly working our way to being where we should have been, because you don't want to hit the values off, right? You don't want to do that big
Okay.
jump.
Yeah.
And then you had 2020 happen where, right, you
Right.
see that huge
Yeah.
percentage,
Mhm.
but we were already
Crazy. And
so
went
we're
up.
trying to catch up, and actually just in speaking with the assessor, it looks like we're finally kind of where we need to be rather than having to continue to jump up. So what's going to end up happening is we have this cyclical reinspection, and where the state requires that we do an inspection of every property to make sure the value is in line.
So the Department of Revenue requires the assessors to get their evaluations approved every 5 years.
Mhm.
So when was the last time our assessors had theirs approved?
They get approved, we're in compliance, so
Okay.
it must have been
At least less than 5 years.
2022.
Okay.
So
So 20
Yeah, but it was 2022, Corey.
I think
Cody.
27.
is that what it was?
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it was 2022.
All right.
Yeah, so, but that's why we're a little bit higher than the average, because we were already working our way up a little bit more. so.
Okay, because, well, then that would certainly explain the 62% increase over 15 years of the tax bills.
Mhm.
So, I guess the net of it is, if you go back 15 years, cumulative inflation is 44%, which means $1 that you would spend in 2010, you have to spend $1.44 today to
Yeah.
get the same.
Mm-mm.
So, again, that's my thought is it's just not the right time for the town board.
Yeah.
So that's my feel.
That's mine as well.
that's for the voters to make that
Yeah.
decision in November.
Yes.
It's not
We should
for us to say one way or the other in this meeting.
So
Because
you recommend no vote, right?
we already made the decision that it should go to the voters
Yes.
in the town meeting in May. So now it's up to each voter, registered voter, to come to the school and either vote for or against this.
Okay. So no action then? Is that
So
what
that's
you're
my
saying? Okay. No,
vote
that's
is for
fine.
no action.
All right.
But everybody else can vote how they want.
Okay. So any further comments? Anybody? Everybody?
I agree.
I would just, and I didn't want to go down this road, but I feel like it's important to be said. And there's a lot of people that are putting a lot of time into this. It started off as a handful of people, and it's a lot bigger than that. And there's a lot of people that have invested a lot into this, and there's so much conversation that's going on out there about it, and there's a lot of passion on both sides. And I just hope that people don't lose sight of the fact that there's a lot of people that are working hard at this for the best reasons possible for the town, with nothing but good in mind. And I just hope that this doesn't continue to be a back and forth. And I hope people go out there and vote the way that they want to vote. And if it passes, great. If it doesn't pass, then we'll figure out a way to make it happen later. But it can't turn into a battle, across town, for lack of a better term. Like, we've got to really recognize that everyone has opinions on these types of things, but it doesn't mean that people are doing things for negative reasons one way or the other. So I just want to throw it out there, because I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot, and I don't think it's fair to either side when you start poking holes in people's beliefs. So I hope people do what they're entitled to do, which is vote on this either way, and let the people's vote decide which way it goes. That's what's most important.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I agree. I don't feel we need to.
All right.
Jonathan's on. I don't know if you want him to speak anything.
No. Mr. Seelig, any comments?
Hold on, guys. Sorry, I'm throwing dinner together. You caught me at dinner time here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I respect that decision. Oh, sorry, buddy. Hold on. I respect that decision. And again, I appreciate the work you guys do. My one counter argument, and I don't want to keep beating this, because I think we do need to just kind of let what happens. But you're going to have good years financially, and you're going to have bad years, and that's going to change. But I feel like what we need to do is make the preservation of Halifax a priority, and then you can debate that, till the cows come home. But if you wait for the absolute perfect year to have CPA installed, there's always going to be something, right? So whether we do it now, whether we waiting for the perfect year, this will be the great time for CPA. It's going to take a while for funds to kick in anyway, right? So I don't want to pull off the scab, because I know you guys have gone back and forth. So I appreciate your taking the time to consider it. And that's really all I had. I was only here so that if anybody had any further questions about the program, that I could help you guys get some answers. But it sounds like you guys are pretty squared away.
Good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input.
Thanks, Jonathan.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the night.
Enjoy dinner.
All right. Chicken noodle soup.
All right.
I'll be right
Dave, Lucy.
Take care.
Good night.
Okay, so then I just want to make sure I have the consensus of the committee correct. We're doing nothing at this point, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Let whatever happens.
The voters choose.
Voters choose, yes.
Very good. Okay, so we will close out that agenda item and move into committee liaison updates. So I added this in here because as we get deeper into the year, these conversations will be starting to happen. I don't know. I don't think anybody's really talked to any department heads up to this point. I know I'm working on a couple of things with, trying to get some time with the schools. I've sent an email out to Sarah, I think her name is, to see if she's got some time to sit down and kind of look at some forecasting on what she's done. EJ, as soon as I get some idea back from her on that, I'll loop you in on that, so you know what kind of like where to be and what to do. Cheryl?
Cody, are we going to be doing the same as we did last year? As far as meeting with our liaison between COA and police, are we going to meet together with you, or just me and them?
No, I think we'll follow the same, as long as you guys are amenable, I thought it worked great.
Yeah.
I thought it did as well. Okay.
Yes.
So I think we'll plan to do the same thing. I'm working on the budget memo now. You're going to notice it's going to be very similar to last year's, except more of an emphasis on those 10% cuts because I think we're gonna have to implement more of them this year.
Yeah.
So, just almost identical, but asking our departments to take those a little more serious because we're gonna take them a little more serious. I'll have that to you early next week so you can review it, and then we'll have you at the joint meeting on the 22nd.
Okay,
That'd be great.
sounds good. Thanks, Cody.
No, I thought it worked out really well.
Yeah, good, absolutely. And then that allows time for the follow-up meeting on some of the bigger issues.
Yes.
And I thought it went really well as
Yeah.
well. So
No, it was.
I like that format.
Okay, so, so so this agenda item is just gonna appear from now until we get the budget all squared away. So if you have an update, this is where we'll do it. If you don't, that's fine too. Okay?
I have one more thing to update you guys on. So I met with the schools. I think I had mentioned I was gonna meet with them. I met with and my two counterparts in Plimpton and Kingston had a meeting with the school administrative team a couple weeks ago regarding a few things and budget finance being one of them. So we actually agreed on a few things to help with the timeline. One of them being we are going to do, we are going to attend one of the school committee meetings on December 12th. And it's going to serve as kind of a budget kickoff meeting with the schools to try to lay out expectations so we're clear from the beginning with them of what we're looking for. And then the idea is to be a little bit more involved. I'm going to try to attend more of the school committee meetings during the budget season to make sure that Halifax is represented and the information that we are setting and the parameters that we're setting is being portrayed to the school committee. And then they're going to send us all of the draft budgets starting in like January.
Oh, nice.
They won't have anything before then? No? Okay.
So
do you think they're gonna be able to give us like a status of what they're spending and how they're spending it, where they're at on their budget this year?
I don't see why they should.
It should be like a quarterly report. They've got the numbers in.
I think that's where maybe we can schedule something with you, myself, and EJ, and we can sit down with them to discuss preliminary budget stuff, and that could be a topic that we want. Where are you at? Where are things for this year?
What you spend today?
Yeah, one of the things that they said was, well, we're actually fixing a discrepancy from last year, this year, right? Well, is that the same thing this year? We want to know, what are we looking at?
What are we looking at?
One of the big things with them that we need to work to identify is, they Silver Lake used E&D, excess and deficiency, which is their form of free cash, basically, to fund their budget last year. You never use one-time funds, right?
Right.
In my opinion, I would never advise you to use one-time funds to supplement your budget, but they did that last year to help with the cuts. With it in mind that right now the town, all the elementary schools get circuit breaker funding. And you get it for the prior year. So we're getting circuit breaker money right now based on last year's numbers. Next year, we will not get as much because the way we do special education has changed. So they're going to get more of that circuit breaker funds. So the good news is the one-time monies that they used are going to be covered by those circuit breaker funds. The bad news is we're not getting that, which we've always used to supplement our elementary school budget.
Right.
So you're going to, and I cautioned them on this last year, and I advised them, I think it was a good idea. What you're going to see is you're not going to see a huge fiscal cliff at Silver Lake. We should see just a normal percentage increase, but you are going to see a nominal increase at the elementary school on top of whatever increase they're looking for percentage-wise, because we're losing the circuit breaker funding that has supplemented our budget, and it's being rerouted to Silver Lake, but we're not going to see basically, you're not going to see relief from Silver Lake because they're just using it to fund the one-time monies that they used last year.
Yep.
So we're gonna have a very, very serious issue with the school budget this year.
Yeah.
On top of whatever percentage what we're looking at, which on average, right, somewhere in the 3 to 4 range, we could be looking at an additional couple $100,000 increase beyond a 3 to 4, whatever the increase.
Right.
And that's where my concern is broader for this fiscal year, but that is where my concern stems.
Yep.
Trying to start that communication with them, because I don't know what that number is,
Right.
and I don't run the operation over there. But you know, we've historically gotten a lot of circuit breaker funds because Halifax has had a high number of, you know, special education students. We're going to not lose that. A lot of that is going to be rerouted to Silver Lake.
Correct.
And not used on the local level anymore.
Right.
Which means you're not going to see a decrease. You're only going to see an increase. So that's where really we need to work to try to identify what is that number going to be, to what extent, and we're not going to get that relief from Silver Lake because they're just using it to cover that one-time funds that they use. It'd be like if we used free cash to supplement the budget this year,
Right.
because we knew we had a new form of revenue coming in next year, you'd be okay, but you're taking from, right, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's.
Yeah. So just a quick question. This is probably only for my edification. A lot of the surrounding towns, the schools have the parents pay for transportation for a student. Is that something that the town would have the stomach for to help kind of alleviate the budget crisis?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we can start to discuss with the school committee.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that you could, it came up preliminarily in some discussions this past year on it. And there wasn't an appetite for it from the school committee.
Right.
But it's something we can discuss. And then one more thing on top of that, you may recall the elementary school also used $50,000 to $55,000 in one-time funds to supplement their budget out of their school use fund, right? So if someone rents out the gym, that money.
Right.
So you're talking likely, or a possibility of several hundred thousands of dollars that were utilized last year, already in a challenging year, as one-time funds, as a Band-Aid, that we don't have a new source of revenue.
Yeah, it's $750,000.
Yeah.
It is. It's a huge
That's a
number.
lot of money. There's nothing left.
And then on the opposite side of it, our growth is at historic lows, right, over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
So while the budget has continued to increase, our revenues are
decreasing.
yeah, they're not increasing at the pace that they need to as far as new growth, but also, you know, we continue to monitor economic trends, right, in the overall economy, and that hits us at the local level with all of our local receipts. State revenue is down.
Yeah.
What that, and a lot of people may say, well, it doesn't matter it does matter to us because the trends, right, are very applicable to us, but also the state aid.
Right.
What the state is going to give us is directly tied to how the state's doing. State's doing really well. They like to pass that on to the municipalities. State's not doing so well.
I get less money.
So when I do our projections, I use level from last year, and then hopefully we get more, right? And if we do, that's great, but you really can't count on more than that, particularly as you look at the economic conditions. And then on top of it, interest rates were dropped a little bit. We expect them to go down a little bit more by the end of the year, which is great for the consumer. Not so great it's good for municipalities when you're going to borrow, but it's not great when you have cash in the bank like we do.
Correct.
And
you're looking at high rate on it.
So this year, we actually made, our financial team sat down and we made some decisions to invest a little bit more in different places, and just put some money in CDs and things like that. We made more money this year on our investments than we ever have.
Right.
And interest rates and, you know, CDs were good.
Right. As a homeowner, was the same for me. You know, I bought into CDs that I haven't bought into in over 20 years.
Right.
Because the rates are finally there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So all of those things
are all changing now.
Right. So we have to consider that where, you know, for a town our size, we brought in I think close to $100,000 in investment income, which is great.
Which is good.
Fiscal 23, we had $6,000 in investment. Right. So we're not going to go back to 6,000 because of just some policy decisions that we made, investing a little bit better. But we're not going to likely see the 100,000
again. Right.
So the revenues are all trending in the wrong direction, down, and our expenses are steeply trending in the opposite direction. So
Yes, they are.
just to give a little synopsis of what you could expect going into this budget season.
Good time ahead by all.
Okay, next.
Okay, that was, so thank you for all that information. That's good stuff. And I appreciate it. So before we move on to the next one, I have been reminded that I missed the minutes from the 9/16 meeting. So if anybody has any adds, changes, or deletions for that, can I get a motion for the approval of the 9/16 minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. All right, so roll call vote. Cheryl?
Yes.
Thank you. Bill?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes, on September 16, 2024.
Thank you, sir. Ed? EJ?
He said yes. I can read his lips.
Sorry, yes, I was on mute. Sorry about that.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes, also. So that motion carries. Thank you all. All right. So into the next agenda item, correspondence or as may arise. I have a question, Cody.
Okay.
So, and this is possibly, I could be reading this wrong or I could be misinterpreting this.
Sure.
But so we authorized $100,000 to the elementary school for an HVAC unit or to the school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I read an article this past week where the school is now taking that $100,000 and they want to do a facility study with it and not buy an air conditioning unit.
No, that's not true.
It's not, because then where's the 100? Because they said they had $100,000 and then they added 42 to it.
Yeah, so, all right, I'll try not to be confusing here. This is one of the things we discussed. So, going back 2 years, probably, about 2 years.
Yeah.
When ARPA funding came out,
Mhm.
Silver Lake approached the towns and said, we have 2 HVAC projects that we want to pursue.
Yes.
One of them is to put AC in the middle and high school. We anticipate that costing around $2 million, we'll call it.
Mhm.
And then the other is we need a new rooftop unit for the high school cafeteria, which is going to cost about $350,000, $400,000 at the time. What we did is we said, okay, we will apply for ARPA for the big project, the $2 million project, which was AC for middle school and high school. And then because we have a lot of other projects going on that we can use ARPA for, the town had set aside approximately $200,000 years ago. Silver Lake had excess funds above 1.5 million. Anything above 1.5 million, they have to return to the towns. So this was years ago. So what the town did at that time was they took the excess funds, Halifax's was around 200,000, and put it aside in our stabilization fund and said, we're going to save this for when Silver Lake has a capital project that they need this for. So we decided this would be a good use of that. So at the time, it was about $100,000 for Halifax. We appropriated that at the annual town meeting in 2023. So both projects at the time had been appropriated.
Okay.
100,000 approximately from the town's stabilization fund for the smaller project.
Yep.
450, give or take, to the bigger project out of ARPA. Deadline was approaching for ARPA. September 30th was our deadline through the county. Been pushing. We need the contracts. If not, I said I'm going to bring it back to my board and have them reallocate this funding because I'm not sending anything back to the federal government. We got they finally bid it out. There were some procurement issues. What happened was, I don't know where their estimates came from.
Yeah.
Their estimates were just totally off.
Right.
They weren't able to do AC for the middle and high school for $2 million. They were able to do the middle school, not the high school.
Okay.
And that came in a little less than $2 million. So they had a little bit of leftover money there. And then the smaller project came in over budget. So they needed another, call it $50,000.
Okay,
For Plimpton and Kingston, it was a simple ARPA change because they use ARPA for both. They said, we're going to pull from the bigger project and put it to the smaller project. For us, it was a little bit different because we didn't use ARPA for the smaller project. So we still pulled it from the bigger project, but we had to submit a new application for the smaller project for the additional, I think it's 50, give or take. So the only scope of work that has changed is they are not doing AC in the full middle school and high school. They're only doing it in the middle school. And then they're still doing the rooftop unit in the high school cafeteria.
okay,
It's not costing us anything more other than a reallocation of funds from the larger Arbor project to the smaller high school rooftop.
What's
We
the
had
study?
100,000 that went out under an article in 2023, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, yeah.
And then you're saying we moved 52,000 approximately out of the ARPA funding that was getting ready to retire or expire over to the cafeteria unit for a sum of 152,000. Is that correct?
Approximately.
Approximately, yes.
Exact numbers, but yeah, approximately.
But that
It didn't cost us 52,000 more. We pulled it from the initially approved.
ARPA funding.
Yes.
Yes, correct. Okay, that's what I'm getting. That's ARPA money. It didn't come from anywhere else except under the ARPA funding that we already had.
And that was already allocated to the middle school and high school project.
Right.
That came in under bid, so we pulled the excess there, moved it over to the other project, the smaller project, which came in over bid.
Okay.
Yes, we had trouble at the town meeting regarding their numbers as
Yes,
well.
we initially had a
In
placeholder article.
2023.
And then we had this town meeting, we had a
And then
placeholder.
again, that's
Because
correct.
they said, we're gonna be over
Right.
budget, but we don't, and then I said, well, we need a number, and they
Right.
weren't gonna have that number, so we said, okay, well, we can't request more money if we don't have a
Yeah,
number.
because in 2023, there was a big discussion regarding why was it over
Right.
at the town meeting, and nobody really could explain it.
Mhm.
And then it came down to, well, we just got the wrong bids.
And what ended up happening is, I don't know, actually, can't tell you exactly what happened, but, they had to rebid the whole project.
Correct.
Just recently, and they just recently got, like, as in, like, 2 weeks ago, got the contracts finalized, because us three towns said, none of us are sending money back to the federal government, so if we don't get these contracts.
Yeah, we can't leave, we can't lose.
We have
money.
plenty of
Right.
projects that we can, push this towards, so, but they met that. So they may be doing some sort of study, but not with anything that we've allocated
okay.
through this.
None of the numbers just sounded way too close to what we had allocated.
They did do a study initially,
And this is a new one.
for the Silver Lake.
For Silver Lake, a facilities study for $142,000 is what they're.
Oh, yes, that is something else. That's not something we're paying. I believe the facility study is as in,
No, I understand that. I get that. I know it's something else. What I'm saying is if I remember correctly, the dollars that they found were very close to what we had allocated.
Right.
So
really?
I was like, that's, something.
It's about $10,000 differential.
Right.
Yeah.
really?
It was on, what is it, the Enterprise? I'll bring you the article.
Yeah, okay, that would be good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it.
I was like reading it over here. It's,
Crafty bunch.
Director of Finance and Operations, there.
Cut before the store.
Dude, I was like, what? Anyway, while Cody's reading that, just a quick update. I have been able to have a quick chat with the Finance Committee Chairman for Plimpton and for Kingston. So I got some positive feedback. We're kind of like joining forces to meet with, when we start meeting with the school, the Silver Lake, about kind of going in as one voice instead of three separate ones. I believe there's a finance committee meeting in Plimpton tonight where they're going to discuss it, and I think Kingston is also having one. So once I get some feedback from them, I will let everybody in the group here know kind of like where we're at. and then we can kind of strategize as to what we want to do moving forward from there.
Love
That's
it.
good.
Thanks, Jim, for doing that.
Sounds good.
Okie dokie. All right. Anything else on as may arise? So, public.
Jim?
Yeah, Cheryl's hand has risen.
Sorry, Cheryl.
No, I want to go to that conference in November, but I can't seem to sign myself up. Can somebody do that for me?
Signed you up. Cheryl, didn't you ask me to sign you up before?
You signed me up, Cody.
Yeah, I believe-
You asked me, Cheryl?
I thought I could do it myself, but I can't. So if you could sign me up, I'd appreciate it.
Is everyone, so other than Cheryl, is everyone signed up that wants to go?
Yes, I'm signed
Yeah,
up.
I'm in.
I'm signed up as well.
I'll try to drop the ball with anyone.
No,
All right, Cheryl, I'll do it tonight and you'll get an email.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Next agenda item, moving on, is public participation. I don't see anybody here or on the call that would qualify for that. So we will close that agenda item out. Last agenda item is next meeting planning. So we all know that we are meeting in person on the 22nd at 5, correct? Because then we're going to the selectmen meeting.
If you're gonna be
Yeah.
at 5.
5 o'clock on the
Right.
22nd, yes.
Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Anybody have anything else to discuss with the committee? We're all here. All right.
Yeah.
So that said, we'll see everybody in person on the 22nd. And shall we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Roll call vote, Cheryl?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes, for adjournment.
Mike?
Yes.
EJ?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. So thanks everybody for joining. The meeting is concluded at 18:51.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.